Hi, everybody, and welcome to our September Pet Memorial Month edition of Pet Loss Talks. We'll be joining Dr. Amanda soon, and we will get started. There
Hey,
you are.
Kathy.
Hey, beautiful.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going really well. I'm just so thrilled, of course, to be sharing this time with you again. I mean, it just seems like it was just a few days ago, but wow, it's been a whole month since we've talked. And I wanted to welcome everybody. My name is Patty Hegwood with Best Friends Animal Society, and I am joined with Dr. Amanda Weiss, who is here with us to do Pet Loss Talks. And this is our September Pet Memorial Month edition. Welcome, Dr. Amanda. As always, so great to see you and hear from you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Wow. I'm going to just kick this off with a Patty musing, okay? And that is, and I think you've heard me say this before, when we lose our beloved animal companions, they're gone all year long. But there's something about creating a memorial month and taking that time to honor the place that they have taken in our hearts and in our lives. And just gonna pick your brain today on, why do we memorialize? What does this do for us?
Yeah. And so before we go into that, I think it might be helpful to start with a bit of a disclaimer that
Okay.
there is no right or wrong way to do Pet Memorial Month. And so we're going to be sharing a number of suggestions, and depending where you are in your grief journey, that some of these may feel relevant and some of these may not feel like they land so helpfully for you right now. And so these are truly just suggestions, but we really encourage you to choose based off of what you need right now. And so, try not to shit all over yourself or anything like that, that this is meant to be for you. And so if it's not a place that you're at right now, we'll talk about some other options later. But just this idea kind of going into it, that if you're hearing some of this and feeling like, oh, the wound still feels a little too raw
Right.
for this, that is okay.
And I also thank you for that,
Yeah.
because we are all in different parts of our journey always.
Mhm.
I mean, it's as varied as, the spectrum of the rainbow. Like, we're all going to be in different spots.
Of
Um,
course.
I
Yeah.
also
So
wanted to tell folks too that we do have folks who are monitoring the chats. And if you have questions, we may not be able to get to all of them, or, we have a pretty packed session here as we get rolling. But if you give your email address, we will get those messages and make sure that you get some personalized attention on the other side of this call. So I just want to make sure that I want to encourage you, if you have questions or items that we haven't covered, just feel free to reach out, and we do have folks who will pass on that information. So Amanda,
okay. Yeah.
why does it feel this way? What is it about anniversaries, memorials? What is it that you feel that sturm and drang all year long, but now we have a month devoted to, memorials. Does this stop at, like, cause us to take a pause, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, so there's three main reasons that we memorialize in general, and this isn't just, this month. This is throughout the year as well, but certainly most relevant in this month.
Right.
And so, you know, our beloved animal companions, we want to continue to have a strong, deep connection with this animal who meant so much to your world. And so physically, they may no longer be there, but there's still an ongoing relationship that, kind of bleeds through the heart. And so these, when we memorialize, you honor the memory of your beloved animal companion. You reconnect with what you loved about this animal, right? It's about this deep, ongoing, heartfelt connection with the animal who's no longer physically here, but very much still alive here. And so it helps to, kind of maintain and nurture that ongoing relationship. It also, on an ongoing basis, helps us to continue to accept the reality that this animal is no longer with us,
And
right?
how do we, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it helps us to come to terms with what has happened. And coming to terms with it, this acceptance piece isn't really a one and done, right? And so at
Mm-hmm.
many kind of junctures down the process or the journey of grief, there's going to be this kind of, as you speak of, this pause where we have to kind of stop and re-acknowledge that this has happened, and face the fact that the reality has changed. And now there is this void, there is this pain that may be there. And so it helps us to also process that pain and those feelings that then allows a pathway to healing.
So it's a bit of a balancing act too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between bringing up memories that might not feel so pleasant, but also bringing out all the good and the joy. And who were you when they were in your life?
Right.
You miss that part too, don't you?
Absolutely. And to this point of, some unwanted or, more painful memories coming up, that is inevitably going to happen, right? Even when you're sitting and trying to think of the good, the great, the loving, that those are gonna pop in, and it's out of our control what memories or thoughts kind of pop up.
Yeah.
However, the invitation is, when those unwanted or more painful memories come up, the one of the invitations is to hold yourself kindly in that. Give yourself comfort, care, understanding in it, and then also name the feeling that's coming up, right? When we name it, we can tame it. And so in the face of this unwanted memory, what feelings come along with it? And then what, kind words, actions, or gestures can you offer yourself?
Cool. So when we talk about, because I say cool because the reminder to hold myself kindly can't be said enough. I'm actually thinking of having it tattooed on my hand because there's a lot of times where I will go into very dark spaces and not dig out for a bit. And I know that that's also okay. But it just doesn't feel very good. And you and we've had this discussion, and I don't know exactly what you are going to say next, which is exciting to me, because when we look at celebrating the life that we once shared and honoring our feelings, you bring up beautiful thoughts around grief rituals. And I would love for you to take the time to really help us focus on what is a grief ritual? How do we get that into play?
Yeah, and so a grief ritual, it's also can be, called a practice for acknowledging loss, because that's, truly what it is. It's creating this, routine or ceremony that you can do regularly or, one time a year, but it certainly has more benefit and power, when it's done regularly, that helps you over time, come to terms with the loss. There are no firm rules or anything about how to do it. And some of the components that I'm going to share next, the invitation is really to experiment with it, to see what is going to be the most useful for you. And so there are some components that really allow it to give this full experience that affords like a pathway to healing and connection. And so the first, component is identifying, a regular time and place. And again, in the context of, Pet Memorial Month, it could be a regular time and place throughout this month, or it can be, again, all year round, whatever is going to feel that, where you're at is going to be the most useful. And so choosing a time, once a week, once a day, once a month where you are intentionally connecting and reflecting on this relationship and love with your, beloved animal companion. And it could be anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes to a half hour to an hour. There's a lot of flexibility in what the frequency and the duration looks like. But that for it to be a routine, having some, sense of when this is going to happen and choosing a place to do it. And so another one aspect of this is having a symbolic act, right? And so
Gotcha.
the symbolic act could be part of the place, right? So this can be, going to your animal's, favorite outdoor arena, if you will, a park or a
Right?
certain walking path or trail that you went down, or even a certain place in your home where you used to sit and be with that animal. It could be lighting a candle. It could be donating toys or food to a shelter. It can be, reading a poem or a prayer or journaling. And then another component is having a strong reminder of your beloved animal companion. And so this can be, their collar or, a favorite toy or teddy of theirs. It can be a photograph or a painting, anything that, really brings about this reminder and this connection. And to your point earlier of these unwanted memories that can come
Mm-hmm.
up, while that is a possibility regardless, that being a little bit intentional and actually choosing memories ahead of time that you want to reflect on during this, practice for acknowledging loss. Again, we have little control over what
Mm-hmm.
memories that pop up. Sometimes they appear when we don't want them, and sometimes when we
Yeah.
want them, they don't appear. But so the idea is that there are going to be memories that you really want to hold dear.
Yeah.
And it could also be helpful to, anytime a memory pops up, maybe jotting it down. Because the mind also does this thing where, again, when we want to remember it, it's like there's a blockage to it. And so having ones to almost like choose from, like a menu. And then, two other really important pieces are this idea of allowing and remembering. And so as you're connecting with the even most pleasant and loving memories, there's going to be a whole range of feelings that pop up, from love to sadness, right? Pain to joy, and everything around it and in between. And so the invitation here is to open up space and allow for whatever feelings that are going to be there, and to name them, tame them, hold yourself kindly. Here is sadness,
Mm-hmm.
gently does it, right? And doing this in a way that allows you to connect more deeply with whatever comes up. And in the face of any of the pain, you can offer yourself a kind, soothing touch, putting your hands over your heart, taking
Yes.
some deep breaths in, feeling the warmth of your touch and the soothing and kind of comforting nature that comes from it. This will not take the pain away, but just like when your beloved animal companion was in pain, the gestures that you offered it, right? Petting, cuddling, whatever it may be, you're offering this to yourself. The last component is an it depends, depending on, again, the usefulness of it to you, and in some ways the nature of your relationship with the animal,
Mm-hmm.
but that allowing for an ongoing conversation to continue. And so
Oh,
you
I
can,
like that a lot.
yeah, you can still talk to
It
your,
doesn't just cut off right there. And I think that's part of it, is it kind of this feels like it's over, it's gone forever. It's not.
No. And this piece of, communicating with them, it could be in your mind or it could be out loud. It could be sharing, some of the fondest memories that you've had with them. It could be, you just went somewhere that reminded you of them. And so you want to tell them. It could be sharing, things that are going on in your life right now. Or if there is something that you want to say to your beloved animal companion that you didn't have a chance to before they died, this can be an opportunity to communicate that to them as well. And then, unlike with human loss, where you may then kind of think about what this person would say back to you,
Right.
think about your animal. How did they usually respond to you? Was it, and then thinking about how you would want them to respond to what you're saying, and imagine that, in your mind's eye. And so the idea again is it doesn't have to be every single one of these things. Um, these components do allow for, a a more comprehensive, if you will, experience of it. Um, and what, like, how you choose to play out or do any one of these components, again, experimenting with what seems the most useful and beneficial to you at any given moment. And if something doesn't feel useful, good news is there's lots of other options of things that you can try and see how that goes.
I love that. And I love the idea of ritual and putting that time aside, because when they're like, to me, you'll get those random thoughts that will hit you out of the blue, or you'll see something that sparks you. And this is just how I think about it. And you can tell me, I don't know if there's any right or wrong, but if it's helpful, and that is, if I know that I have that time set aside, I can put it in that bucket, and I don't have to be derailed for the day. I know that I've set that time aside and can have it all together. It's just how I think. And I'm sure a lot of people think like that, but
Yeah,
that's um,
it's
what I
what it,
think.
what it does is give you permission in that moment that something is popping up
Mm,
and it isn't the, most useful time or space or place to be kind of going into it, that you're reminding yourself, okay, we have a time set aside for this, and you're giving
right.
yourself permission to then let it go in the moment, knowing that you will have the opportunity to get back to it.
Okay, so I'm not that far off
No,
track.
no,
No,
that can be helpful. And
that's some pretty wild thoughts. And when they come up, you could be anywhere, and it's all of a sudden you have this, it's like a lightning bolt out of the blue, and you're like, oh my God, I'm getting ready to go into a meeting. Like, I can't be falling apart. Okay, I have this time set aside, you know, and plenty of time, whatever it is, five
absolutely.
minutes,
And
10 minutes, an hour, whatever you set aside, but it gives you that place to put it. Yeah.
sure. Now, there are a couple of steps that will need to happen in order for somebody to truly be able to adaptively let it go in that moment. The
Okay.
first is to not think about it as like you're pushing it away or, putting it away. You're containing it until it is a more useful time to do it. But
Perfect.
first, in order to do that, you have to acknowledge what is coming up, right? And so, okay, I'm, thinking about how I, should be thinking more about them, or gosh, I'm an awful person and have so much guilt because it's been, 2 days and they haven't come to my mind, right? And so being able to say,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
here, I'm having, these thoughts, or here is, self-criticism, whatever it may be. And then saying, okay, yes, this is, connecting and reflecting is important. And right now is not going to allow me to have the experience with it that I want and need to have. And fortunately, I have this time, set aside to be able to get to it. And so if you try to just like push it away and pretend it's not there, it will scream louder. And so we need to actually, acknowledge it, we've heard it, and then give ourselves permission to, pivot. Now, the way that you kind of, described it of you're going into like a meeting and now all of this is coming up as a way to be able to refocus. There's something called dropping anchor, or the A strategy for dropping anchor.
Okay.
And it's an acronym. And so the A stands for acknowledge the thought or feeling that's coming up, while C, connecting with your body. And so in that moment, we may not have control over what's coming up in our mind, but we do have control over what we do with these hands, these feet, our feet. And so getting out of the mind into the body, you can roll your neck around, move your arms, you can push your hands together, push your feet into the floor, any kind of gesture or movement where you're actively connecting with your body. So we acknowledge the thoughts and feelings while connecting with our body. And then the E stands for engage with what's in front of you. And so this is then we're going from our mind to our body to what is in front of us. And so you can look around the room, name 5 things that you can see, or you can, kind of wherever your hands are, what can you feel? What are a few things that you can feel? Tapping into your, hearing, anything that you can hear in your environment. Or if there's somebody in front of you, you can focus on their tone of voice or something that you notice about, their appearance or something. But again, we are kind of moving from being stuck in our mind to going into our body and then engaging or refocusing on what's in front of us. And this is something that you may need to do over and over a few times. It could take as little as 10 seconds to get through it once, but it may still be hard to be a bit more grounded. And so you just run through it again and again until you're able to be with what's in front of you.
So practice, practice, practice.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So I love that. I love that acronym. That's perfect because I think it is, what did you call it? The Minedo?
The Minedo,
When the
yeah.
Minedo, gets going, this is a great way to kind of bring yourself, ground yourself, get into the present moment. I love that acronym. Thank you. Wow. That's good stuff. There's another tattoo. I'm gonna put that on the other hand. So we're, when we talk about celebrating that life we once shared and honoring them and our feelings, I am a firm altar maker. I am a firm believer in altars. Like that's my personal preference. If I find a feather or a stone and it makes me think of them, it goes to the altar. There's a designated spot in my house. That's what I have. I have their picture. I have some flowers, maybe their toy. And it's accumulated several animals over the years, their things. But even when I'm like out in the field with my horses, I just the other day found a beautiful little stone and it made me think of my little guy Teeter. And I was like, okay, you go on the altar, and it was there just as a remembrance, but it makes me feel good. It really helps me that I connected with something. It made me think of him. I put it on my altar. And when I pass my altar in the house, and it's not big, it's a small table, but it brings me joy. Are there other things that we can do like that help, set up those physical reminders?
Yeah. Well, so what you're just describing is the component of, having strong reminders, right? And so you have an
Yeah.
altar full of strong reminders that can, allow you to more informally acknowledge a loss or connect, with your beloved animal companions who aren't with you anymore. And that if you were to be doing it a bit more like formally, right, as like a ritual that, you essentially have, a place where you can choose in any given moment which strong reminder that you're gonna have. And so, for some people, again, it might be photos, it might be their ashes, it might be their favorite toy, it might be a collar, it could be the bed that they slept in, that you sit in as you're kind of thinking and reflecting.
I've actually taken favorite toy and put their collar on the favorite toy. And it really depends, because when I say this static altar, there's also the altar of my car. Lovey liked going on car rides, so her collar is hanging on my rearview mirror. And I have Kumar's snake going across the dashboard,
Uh-huh.
that his little stuffed snake. And it's like, I really struggled for a very long time with seeing those physical reminders and them being daggers in my heart and not wanting to see those reminders, to transitioning to being a joyful thing in those physical reminders, because they're things, but they're things that meant something to both of us.
Yeah, no, they're symbolic. Yeah, and this is where, again, for each person, that journey of, like this is too hot to the touch versus, no, this brings me peace, joy, comfort. What that time frame is going to be different. And that's, where for anybody who does not feel ready to, or is in a place of being ready to memorialize like this,
Right.
that there are other options too. This may be a month where you're looking at what can I be filling my time with that is meaningful, is going to feel like I'm caring for myself, right? Even if it's a distraction, right? Like distractions get a bad, reputation, right? Like, oh
Yeah, they
no, we
do.
shouldn't distract. But that if you're doing it in this kind of mindful, intentional way, where you're not, where it's like acknowledging, I'm not ready to be facing this yet. And so I
Right.
am going to focus my attention somewhere else that feels, more healthy and self protecting and preservative in this moment. That's okay. And so this can be any other month if it needs to be, and don't, again, try not comparing yourself to others or shooting all over
Yeah.
yourself or even comparing yourself to how you may have memorialized a previous beloved animal companion, right? It's all relative, and day to day, week to week, month to month, things kind of, move and shift. And it's important to check in with yourself. Where am I at right now? What am I experiencing? And what do I need in the face of what I'm experiencing?
Good.
And
So nothing is too wacky, because I have to say, when I lost my Cammy, we went from 3 dogs to 2, and I put Cammy's leash, doubled it up on Cooper's leash, and I'm like, she's still with it. Like, here's her leash. It still feels good in my hand, and not ready to go from 3 to 2, but I'm not ready to add a third, and so it is just like a little bit of something that no one would ever notice, but it made me feel better.
And that's what it's all about. What is going to be the most helpful to you, not what's going to be helpful to somebody else, right? Or to
Right.
you in the past or to you in the future, but to you in this present moment. And one thing that I didn't mention with the ACE strategy that I think is so important is that the idea is that it's not going to take the thought or the pain or the emotion away. What
Okay.
it's going to do, right, when like those grief waves are, strong, and the emotion ocean is stirring, the mind NATO is going, just like a boat in the harbor that drops anchor, right? The idea with this is to keep you from being kind of pushed by it, pulled by it, thrown ashore. The idea is it's going to hold you steady until that kind of storm or wave passes.
Okay. That
Mhm.
really,
And
thank you
keeps you
for that.
grounded in what's happening around you so that you're not, again, like 10 miles ashore here.
That is absolutely very helpful, Dr. Amanda. And what do you know? Here we are. We're at time. and so much great information from you. Thank you so much. Thanks for always just being able to really encapsulate these wonderful thoughts and give us those acronyms that actually ground us and help us on our journey. So I love and appreciate you all the time. And as Dr. Amanda Weiss signing off, Patty Hegwood, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found this helpful, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.